My roots are deep here, being the fourth generation to farm this land. The farm brings me a happiness from the fields, forest, animals, and daily chores. It brings an independence from the grocery store, which is priceless.
I can remember my dad telling me stories of how proud Grandpa was when they would sit down and say, "This is food from our land. We grew this." My dad could remember Grandpa being that way. And Grandpa back in that day, in the 30s, if you didn't grow it, you didn't eat. And everybody had what you called a sustenance homestead. I can remember my dad gardening one time and when we'd help in the garden, and that was it. And I can remember thinking, because he would tell me all these stories of his past, of how they would sustenance farm this land, and it wasn't this like begrudging thing. It was this cool thing, and he had good feelings towards it. And one day, he did that garden, and then that was kind of it. And I said, "Why don't you do that anymore? Why don't you garden?" And he said, "Because it's cheaper to buy it in the store." My dad would keep cows, I think probably just for nostalgia, but probably more important, for the tax write-off. I mean, he was a frugal guy. We were made to feed them their hay and grain, but really it wasn't like what I do now in the sense that, we're rotational grazing, it's a little more management intense. Our cows were throw the hay in the winter, they come get it, they walk away. In the summer, nothing. Make sure the fences are okay, they had access to the creek. For him, he didn't make that connection of the pesticides, herbicides, the lack of nutrients in it, because it's this huge monoculture thing, this connection to he wasn't seeing it that way. So when we started to grow our own food, it was, nothing but electric energizers and how to herd a cow. Had to learn everything from scratch. And in fact, when we started learning it, when we picked up on Joel Salatin, and that means we're moving our cows every day to new paddocks, my dad gave a big resistance. I almost feel like he felt threatened. He used to call my wire, I would set up these electric wires to move the cows in every day. He would used to call them the crazy wires. And almost make fun. The pole barn is the newest addition to our farm. We just got the cows in here a couple of weeks ago. If you would have told me 5 years ago, you're gonna have a pole barn here in 5 years, I probably would have laughed at you. I probably would have been like the same thing with Rebecca, because I would have been like, "Nah, I'll just use our old barn. I'll just use what we have." I was still kind of in that scarcity mentality. There was a mental shift from our difficult times to where we are now. There was a huge mental change, and that included a mindset of abundance.
We were walking down the road one day, and all of a sudden he just was like, "My leg." And I'm like, "What happened?" And he's like, "I don't know." That was like the beginning of, what is this? I remember he didn't run for a couple of days, and then he went to go run again, and he was like, "Yeah, it's not healed. I'm just gonna take another week off of running." So we were like, okay, you know, and it was kind of like one of those things that you just were like expecting to heal, and then it just didn't.
Next day it was still there. Next day still there. A couple years later, thousands and thousands of dollars, we still haven't figured out this pain. And the pain has then moved, and it's in my feet. My feet hurt. Then I'm going through these mood swings, and I'm depressed.
He's 34 years old. He can like barely walk. And we started like seeing doctors, and nobody knew. You know, we saw a physical therapist.
Even one doctor treating me and saying, getting to the end of his rope and saying, here's a psychiatrist.
And we started seeing this doctor in Raleigh, and I just remember it being so much money. How are we gonna pay for this? And so I was like, we have to get credit cards.
I hated to get those credit cards. In my heart, I was against debt, but really it was the only option, and hopefully the credit cards was gonna be temporary, so that get through this hard time, get me better, I'll get back earning. But eventually it became, oh, we're gonna have to get another credit card, and another one, and eventually they're not gonna give us any more credit cards.
He also said to me, I feel horrible because I'm taking all of our money to try to find what's wrong with me. Our whole lives felt like they were spiraling out of control. I remember going to the grocery store, and I remember having this list, and I just remember thinking, like, we can't afford this. Like, I don't know where we're gonna get the money. We did dumpster dive. That was another way that we were helping with the groceries. He has journals that he kept during that time, and like literally he was like preparing me for him to die. Like he really thought he was just gonna die. Like he just couldn't imagine continuing on living in the pain that he was in.
Finally, one doctor saw, I think it's Lyme disease. And Rebecca starts crying. I don't know what the implications are of Lyme disease. You end up taking blood tests, and sure enough, I got Lyme disease.
In the darkest times of Justin's illness, I felt so little hope. Like I just remember like crying, just like wanting something to change so bad, and like having no way to make it happen.
And so I humbly went to my dad, sitting at the kitchen table right behind me, embarrassing. Can I borrow some money? He said no. And that was hard because it's your dad, and your dad has provided for you your whole life. And then to get rejected is humiliating. You know, looking back now, it was probably one of the best things because I would have just blown through that money and then had to sell the farm to pay him back, and then I wouldn't have had any money, and then what are we gonna do? So Rebecca and I are laying in bed at night, and Rebecca said, "Did you put the chickens up?" I say, "No." I stayed there laying. I was about to go sleep. I think she nudged me. And then she said, "Well, aren't you gonna?" I said, "No." And she said, "Well, something might happen to him." I said, "I hope they die." Well, one fella, I don't know if he saw the need or just, he was a youth worker, and so he had these youth, and he's like, "Hey, could we come out to the farm and volunteer once a week?" Most of the time it was just him and one other kid. Sometimes it was just him. But without Ethan coming out every week, and relieving me from some of that heavy, intense, boring stuff without somebody else to do it. If it wasn't for him and just another soul, just another companion at least to talk to and to help out with a little bit of work, just one hour a week, who knows? I might not even be sitting here. You know, Ethan kind of represented this first glimpse of hope.
Justin was like, I need a different job, because like he couldn't be a farmer like out there, like working, like doing the grass-fed beef, moving the cattle, farming, doing the CSA. So he was just like, I can't do that. But I still want to do like something in this sustainable agriculture movement.
Come in with this idea to launch this chicken product.
So he ended up coming up with the concept of permaculture chickens. When we would tell people what we were doing, they were like, what? Like they would glaze over. Like, you're gonna sell a chicken video? You're like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. It's gonna work.
It'd be a film, it'd be an ebook. We would tell our friends, and you could look in their eyes. They were nice to us, but they thought we were absolutely crazy. You could tell what they were thinking. You're gonna make a movie on chickens? This is gonna get you out of your debt? Like, it's gonna sell? Well, we don't have no money, right? So what are you gonna do? Well, this is the time of Kickstarter. I'd heard about Kickstarter where, hey, wait, you get money for the project ahead of time? I'm down. I didn't have any experience in filming per se, how to go about this. And Ethan gave me my lead. But going into it, it's like, oh, is this thing just gonna flounder for 30 days? Is it gonna work? I've never done anything like this. And then is all my family and friends am I gonna see it in their eyes? I told you so. I told my dad about this. Mistake. He told me, you'll never sell 4 copies. And he was trying to be nice. He was trying to prevent me from going into all this effort, going down this other, spending some money on it. Couldn't wait until my dad would ask me how I was doing. And finally he asked. He said, how much did you get on that $35,000? 30 days. My dad's, he didn't say nothing, but a little bit of respect in there. Things started to change a little bit right then.
We wanted to do something together as a family, and so then we chose YouTube. I don't know what got into me, and then we had like 2 viral videos that paid us money. And then we got like the deposit in our bank account, and I was like, what? like this is gonna be like money for us to like spend? It was, I mean, we both weeped. Like we both just cried.
When you get to where you've maxed out credit cards and you're not sure how you're gonna feed your family next week, you get an incredible drive. And you learn things you would have never learned before. You explore things you never would explore. And I just dived into this online business marketing world. Consuming podcasts as I drove, audiobooks, while I'm milking, as I'm doing dishes. I used to have live periscopes going on all these business guys. So that drive that came from the bottom of the financial ended up giving me, now that we're stable, a drive to inspire and to reach so many that we're able to give back in big ways. He was so unsupportive, we never even told him that we started our own blog. And when we went on the Great American Farm Tour and we were gonna travel all these states, we finally told my dad about the vlog, even though we'd been vlogging a half a year or so, because we figured he'd wanna watch us go across the country. We were talking about some vlog, When I was talking about how we're following the sheep, the sheep are following the cows, and the sheep are eating stuff the cows didn't eat, and they're just really cleaning up the weeds. He said, "You got it looking good up there." And that was his way of finally saying, okay, you may be doing it different, but this is really legit, and you do have it looking good up there. And then, long story short, he became our #1 fan. And if the vlog wasn't up by 8 p.m., he'd call me to make sure I was all right and where was the show. Grandpa bought this land in 1932 with a little house, no running water, no electricity, for $500. He was making $1,000 a year. He put half his income, he put $25 a month on it for 2 years and paid it off. And then that was in the 30s. And then in the 50s, my dad bought it from him for $19,000. And then here it is, the 2000s, and I buy it for $500,000. I never met my grandfather. I only had heard stories. But in some ways, when I sit down to the table and I have pride rise up in me because of what we're consuming, it gives me chill bumps sometimes because I connect with Grandpa. Didn't even know. Now this land is a memorial. But in that concrete, I engraved my name, Big Papa. Nobody called me that yet, but I'm thinking ahead. I want my grandkids to know, remember, I love you. I loved you before I even knew you. I built this for you. And what kind of gift is that for me to give to them? That's good. That's a good gift.